We are now through the majority of the course, so let's now just start to take a look at some case studies and just kind of practice looking at them, how to apply everything that we've seen, all the layers of context, the rules we've learned, and that way we can kind of just gauge. There's one thing, that's for sure. Nothing's ever going to look the same, but as long as you keep the general rules, general understanding, all that foundational stuff in mind, it'll all work itself out in the long term. I do have some great news though. While the case studies in this course are limited, the course can't go on forever. I mean, maybe you think I'm just so fun to hang out with and you wish this could go on forever, but my apologies, that's just not going to happen. But the good thing is, and the good news is, that the case studies you can do on your own are infinite. Well, that's exaggerating. There's, I think, 4,000 stocks right now that are ticker symbols, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. But regardless, there's all sorts of examples that you can pull up. And there, as you've seen, level twos are always changing anyway. So there's nothing that's ever going to look the same from day to day, let alone from hour to hour. So pull up level twos anytime you want and observe them. The more you observe and the more your mind gets used to processing the information, the easier it's going to become, and the better recognition you're going to have of favorable risk, not favorable risk. What sort of games may be getting played. Is there dilution going on? Maybe is a short starting to get squeezed? All that good stuff. You're going to start to recognize what's going on. Or sometimes you're just going to say, no, this is a perfectly normal market, and it's just, market makers going back and forth, fulfilling the orders of their clients. With enough observing, you really, truly, it becomes subconscious when you look at the auction. I mean, you just start to look and you start to notice things. And you may think that I'm kind of full of crap right now saying that, but that's why I say there's case studies out there, and there's all sorts of case studies, because all you got to do is pull up your level twos and open them up, and the rest will take care of itself. If you've learned charts, it's the same concept. The more charts you look at, the more and more what I call chart vision you're going to have. Same thing here. The more and more level twos you look at, the more and more level two vision you're going to have. Now I just want to issue a quick and fair warning here. If you are taking notes, get ready. There's going to be very little text on the following slides. So if you want to, kind of look ahead, print out any of the images you see, and then we'll kind of just you can jot down any notes. This is all going to be unscripted. I've looked at the images before. You've seen some of the images before, but as far as how exactly am I gonna structure things and say things, I have no idea. I want this to be as realistic as possible. Some of these level 2 screenshots we have not seen, so it's one of those things where I'm just going to kind of throw myself into the mix, and that way you can get a good, have me stumble around maybe a little bit in my thought process, just to show that sometimes maybe not everything is obvious, and sometimes it's okay if your thought process stumbles around a bit. It happens to everybody, but as long as you're stumbling along the right path, you're going to go in the right direction. And am I going to say anything useful? I hope I do. So be ready in the event I do, and might want to jot down some notes. So let's get this party started. But the party, I want to be realistic. So what do I mean by keeping it realistic? I'm going to be referencing charts, technical analysis within these examples. Is it because I want you to buy my course? No. Is it because I want you to see how charts and level 2s complement one another? Absolutely. I'm also going to be referencing the penny stock equation, and this is geared towards those who have taken the penny stock survival guide course that I have. Again, it's not a sales pitch for you to buy it, but it does serve as a purpose to keep this as realistic as possible. As I've said in other parts of the course, the more you know, the more general context understanding, the more useful level 2s are, because they can help confirm or deny other tools that you may be using. And obviously, the more tools that align, the more and higher your probability of success goes. So that's the point. Do I want you to buy my chart course? Yeah, I'd like that. But at the end of the day, if you don't know charts, get out there and learn them somehow. Look into my course, but if you don't buy it, we're still going to be friends. But point being, get out there and educate yourself on charts. And if you don't understand how penny stocks work, check out my course again. But if you don't check it out, we're still totally going to be friends. But just understand, the more context you have, the more tools you have, the more you can. It's kind of like mustard and ketchup. If you can get them together, usually that's a pretty darn good combination to put on a hot dog. Now, I don't know if you've ever played this game before, but I kind of do it once in a while. But we're going to do it now. So if you've never played it, that stops now. You're going to experience the what if game. And what that is I just want to maximize the time that we have together. So I'm going to be creating multiple scenarios within the same level 2 snapshot. By asking what if and then allowing you time to answer the question. That's going to help things out. But this is going to come with a catch, and it's optional. It's on you. If you're one of the kids that sat up in the front row of high school and college in every class, then you're probably going to want to do this. If you're one that showed up in the back row and slept through the whole class, maybe you don't want to do this. And if you're wondering me, I was probably kind of right in the middle. I didn't quite sleep during class, but I was by no means up in the front of class. But anyways, if you really want to take this serious and truly get the most out of it, when I say pause the video, then pause it and then write down a brief answer. It doesn't have to be, please, this is not an essay test or anything like that. I don't need a five paragraph essay with a thesis statement and 3 body paragraph and a conclusion. Don't need any of that. But just write down a brief answer, and this is going to help keep you accountable. And that way, when I give the answer, you're not going to be able to mentally trick yourself and say, "Oh yeah, that's what I meant to think." No, when the right or wrong answer is staring you, face to face, it just becomes that much more efficient and effective in building the confidence or providing some constructive criticism of where you may need to focus more of your energy on to develop the skills necessary. So again, brief answers, just write something down. But at least that way, no mental tricks. You can't play any Jedi mind tricks on yourself because the answer is going to be staring you right in the face. Now, I hinted at this before. You have not seen this slide, but remember, we're gonna bring everything in, and I'm actually gonna bring in stuff from the outside. I'm gonna bring in charting from the outside, the penny stock equation from the outside, and when you combine all that stuff with what you've learned in level 2s, the further and further we can get ourselves over here. You know the routine by now. The higher and higher probability. Remember, no guaranteed. The higher and higher probability we have of success. So that's what I just want you to keep in mind. The goal is to get ourselves as far this way on this line here as possible. If we can get ourselves way out here, excellent. That's the point. That's what we're striving to do. All right, so we have seen this one before. So if it were me and I just pulled this up right away, I'd say, all right, big box over on the bid. There's 4 people there. The ask size, everybody's showing pretty much defaults. Yeah, the ask says 2,500, but on the bid you have 4 at 50, and it's 5,000. I see VFIN over there. That's a good sign. Looking over on the ask, VFIN is at 55. So maybe he's trying to dilute, but maybe he's just trying to play a little game. But at this point, I see nothing at all that would make me scared of VFIN. We've talked about this one before in terms of PERT, but what really catches my attention is PERT is on the best ask here and all the way down here. So our first what if. This is static, but what if 10,000 shares come, hit the tape, and then PERT moves back here? Would you say that PERT is diluting or anything like that? If you said no, that wouldn't be a sign because they were here. They didn't, it's not like they sat and sold and sold and sold. It was a simple 10,000 shares, and now they're way back here. Then exactly, good answer. That's something that we can watch. Now let me ask something else. What happens if 100,000 shares hit the tape at 50.5 cents and PERT is still sitting there? Then what would you say? If you said, okay, that's probably a sign that PERT is diluting, good job. I would agree with you because them just sitting there and remaining way down here on the bid at the exact same time, probably not a good thing. Now let's do another little what if here. What if you use charts and on the chart it says that 50 cents is a level of support? Now if you said, okay, then I'm feeling very good about 50 cents. Why would you feel good about 50 cents? Well, 50 cents here on level 2 is looking like a support, and then if you can combine it with the fact that the technical analysis, the TA, is also saying that 50 cents is the level of support, then hey, this is probably a decent area to try to get in. Even if there's some dilution going on here, as long as it's not anything unnecessary where let's say 500,000 shares hit here and it's still not budging, then you know what? This down here around this area is pretty good. What happens if we add something else? Let's just say the penny stock equation is highly in our favor. Then again, that's another layer of context, and that's going to tell us that, okay, 50 cents is probably a nice little risk versus reward. Again, that's all going to be dependent on how PERT acts. We don't know that here, but in our couple examples, you know what to identify. So let's say that, let's do another what if. What if 20, let's just say 25,000 shares hits PERT, but instead of PERT dropping way back here, he changes his order to 0.506. and PERT remains down here. It doesn't budge over here. He just simply moves up to 0.056. So what are your thoughts in this situation? Go ahead and pause it and take some thought here. Okay, so if you're saying, well, probably some dilution. However, at least he's letting it move. Yeah, that's what I would say is, all right, he's letting it move, but at the same time, he's probably diluting because he barely moved. Remember the incremental rule. He barely budged. He did budge, and it wasn't a huge amount of shares that caused him to budge, but he did move, so that's a good sign. Now, it's one of those things where is it as good as what it was when he moved way back here on only 10,000 shares? No, it's not nearly as good as that. So is our risk a little bit heavier now of getting in up at here? Yeah, it's heavier, but it's not as heavy as if he just sat here and sold 500,000 shares. So do you see how that'll work out? Even if with the technical analysis saying 50 cents is a support, the penny stock equation tilting things in our favor, if he's sitting here and just dropping all sorts of shares all over it, that tells me that, yeah, while a lot of things point that this is the area of support, if PERT keeps up this information, pretty soon people are going to get impatient and start hitting the bid, and this bid's going to disappear, and then the price is going to be down here at potentially 45, sooner than later. And then just one final little example here of what if. I mean, if we're using our future friend, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, at 52, that's still not a lot of progress to be made, especially if now PERT is doing the small incremental movement where he's going to 0.505 to 0.05 or to 0.506 to 0.507. Then yeah, the future enemy rule, who cares about any of these? It seems like PERT is definitely going to be the axe and the only enemy that we may need to worry about. Of course, if let's see, if VFIN drops down and is now at the best ask along with PERT, and then VFIN all of a sudden drops down here, or maybe a small order knocks him down further, then okay, now our risk is getting even more because it's looking like there might be a couple different diluters. Whether the diluter is the company or financiers, we're never going to know that. But point being, is the price being able to move? Well, kind of, but when you have more and more MMs that are moving up here, and then you see them dropping further and further down here, not a good sign. All right, let's take a look at this one. You've seen it before. So let's see. First thing that I see is just that goofiness that we've talked about. 26.23 by 26.23, but the true ask is definitely 23.23 because you look here at the share size, 2,667 compared to 100. Yeah, the true ask is definitely going to be over here. In terms of resistance levels, let's do a what if. What if the chart, you do chart analysis, and on the chart it says there is a resistance of 26.25. So take a look at this and write down some thoughts. If you thought, okay, it looks like 26.25 is probably a level of support, or excuse me, a level of resistance. Why would you say that when 26.25 is not even on it? Well, let's take a look here. At 26.24, look at this big order size. So, not for sure, but a logical conclusion would be, well, there's some traders here that know that 26.25 is the resistance on the chart, so they're trying to cut in line. They're trying to pull a slick willy here and cut in front of that technical resistance. I do it all the time. If I look at the chart and see that a resistance on this would be 26.25, I'm not going to try to sell at 26.25. I'm going to pull a slick willy and try to sell in front of. And, that's not groundbreaking strategy. I'm not trying to proclaim myself as a genius, but that's why I like charts. And you can see here, level 2 probably verifies that that's the case. Again, maybe neither of these are resistances, but within our little what if game, that would make total sense. What if the chart here said support was at 26.22? I would hope you'd say, I would agree with that, and I'd feel very good about trying to hop in down around this area. Why? Well, you can see here, 3 sides of the box at 26.22. Good size, and then you have also a good size on the amount of orders that are placed. What happens if the chart also says that there's a level of support right around the 26.10 area? Would that have any significance to you? Well, if you look down here, remember our reputation rule we have to keep in mind. Goldman Sachs is at 26.11. So yeah, maybe Goldman Sachs is telling their trader, hey, client wants X amount of shares. Just make sure you get them at good levels around good areas of support. Well, Goldman Sachs using Slick Willy, maybe a level is at 26.10. So if a chart, if the technical analysis level is saying 26.10, and then all of a sudden you see Goldman Sachs down here at 26.11, okay, 2610, that's probably a nice little bullish area to possibly pick up some shares if it drops down there. Obviously, the price has work to do because right now the most somebody's willing to pay is 2623. But if it does drop down there, level twos in conjunction with, let me put it like this way: a level one trader is going to have no idea that Goldman Sachs is sitting down there around 2611. No idea if you don't use level twos. Sure, they could still have some success if they use charts because they're going to know that 2610 is a level, but they're not going to have as much confidence thinking that that's a level of support because they're not going to know that, a very nice reputation market maker is sitting down there. Let's flip things to the other side. What if the chart said resistance was at 26, let's just say 40? Does that mean anything? Take a look and let me know. Resistance. So remember, resistance is bearishness. Bearishness sits over here on the ask. I said 2740. Well, again, same rule that we just talked about. Goldman Sachs sitting there at 2637. So yeah, that would probably make some sense. If 2640 is a level of resistance, Goldman Sachs pulling a slick willy, trying to hop in front of some things a little bit. And then you actually look, just notice this right now. Look at all these people where Goldman Sachs, look how random it gets. Random, 50, 49, random, 37, random again. So 11-cent move here, then a 12-cent move randomness, and then look at this. Look how all of a sudden things kind of restore order in penny increments just because look who shows up there. Again, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's not a coincidence. 50, 11-cent move, 12-cent move, and then because it's him that shows up, now these three market makers hop in front at 1 penny increments. So you have, I don't know who that is, 1 cent cut in front of Goldman Sachs. Here we have W, 1 cent. There's HDSN. We've seen him before cutting 1 cent in front. So to me, that is not a coincidence at all. That is just totally market makers, traders looking at what they're looking at Goldman Sachs and then plugging in, telling their market maker to sell a little bit, slightly ahead, especially in this scenario, if the resistance is at 2640 or something. So I hope you see how that works. Same thing on penny stocks. Sometimes if a diluting MM shows up, then all of a sudden you'll see Knight hop in front of it. And a lot of times people will be like, oh, Knight, see, they're joining VFIN. They must be shorting too. Or because, VFIN always gets blamed for shorting because the pumpers want them to think that. But Knight will all of a sudden cut in front of VFIN. And now it looks like they're both on the ask trying to compete. However, they're competing, yes, but it's not because Knight is trying to, short any shares. People are just noticing, scratch this out and let's put VFIN in there. So now people are like, okay, not a good reputation. I want to just pull a slick willy, get slightly ahead so I can sell my shares before VFIN dilutes even more. So they hop slightly in front. So now you have maybe Knight here and VFIN, and they're sitting basically at the same level. So people just clump them both together. And that's totally not right because we have to remember that Knight is retail. So that's retail, just smart retail, I should say, because they understand this is retail that's taken this course. They understand that VFIN's probably diluting, especially if they've watched the tape and have confirmed that VFIN's diluting. So now they're just trying to cut in front of them, hoping that somebody will quick, smack the ask, and then they can get out, and then Knight will disappear again. But sometimes this is also not so good because now VFIN, whoever his broker is going to say that and say, no, we want to be on the inside ask because we have shares to dilute. So then they'll jump in front of Knight, and then that trader that's watching level twos thinks, no, hey, don't cut in front of me. I just want to get rid of my shares. So then Knight jumps in front, and then VFIN with the trader jumps in front, and then you get what's going on. What's happening to the ask here? The ask is getting lowered. Is there any manipulation going on here? No, it's just a simple, a wise retail trader just trying to get rid of their shares in front of VFIN, who knows how many they're selling. But people watching Knight, seeing this action, are going to think, oh, see, Knight's acting in cahoots with VFIN. They're trying to bring... No, it's just they're competing with one another to just try to sell their shares. And the only reason Knight is trying to sell their shares is because VFIN's, maybe being a big pig up here, selling share after share after share. So, that's just one little example of how Knight can get. Maybe it could be E-Trade, another common retail. He tries to hop in front, and then the ask looks like, okay, now E-Trade is working with VFIN, and it's just one of those things where that's not what it is. Are they competing for shares? Yes, but are they working in combination with one another to try to, drive the price down? No, they're inadvertently driving the price down because the more they compete with each other on the ask, the lesser and lesser the price is going to get. So that's where people can say, oh, see, they're walking down the ask. No, they're just competing. Knight wants to get out. Or I should say that the person using Knight wants to get out. So Knight's just doing what he's told. But then, VFIN also is being controlled by, either Billy Bob, the CEO, or some sort of financer, and they want to get out too. So they're going to be competing for that best prize up on stage. Okay, let's look at this one and start to dissect. I wouldn't touch this one with a 10-foot pole right now. Why is that the case? Well, first off, just a massive order sitting right there. And on top of that, UBSS is way down here. So is UBSS a known diluter? No, they're not, but eek. Why are they so aggressive on the ask with a massive order and then way down here? That has me worried. Like I said, this is just a snapshot in time. So if UBSS, let's say what if all of a sudden jumped up to here and had a decent sized order sitting up here, then that changes the whole landscape of things. But where the current picture looks, that has me scared quite a bit. I don't like seeing a massive order up there and then seeing them not even close to being aggressive down here on the bid. So let's see. What else do I notice here? VNDM. Okay, yeah, this really just, I don't think I've ever, so this one's got to be a diluting pig right now. Look at this. You have these two market makers. One of them actually has the bad reputation for diluting, both on the aggressive ask. And then we've already established UBSS way down here at 007 and VNDM right there at a penny. So neither of them are aggressive on the bid at all. That has me worried quite a bit. Are they shorting? Maybe. But after some ass slaps here, if they were shorting, then what do they need to do? They need to become buyers. So they're going to get more aggressive over here on the bid. However, if there's some ass slaps that happen and then these market makers just don't budge, they just still sit down here, then they're just not even trying to hide the fact that they're diluting. Maybe a couple of them will move up here. And again, what happens if these market makers get involved? We have to keep in mind, so let's say that for just estimating, all right, between these two, there was probably about 1 million shares sold before they moved out of the way. And then you see UBSS move up here to the best bid at, let's just say, 0.017. And then you see 15,000 shares hit 0.017, and then they drop back down here. What does that tell us? So pause the video and rewind if you need to hear the scenario I laid out. If you said, that tells us that they're probably diluting because they sold over 1 million between the two, and then they came up on the bid. However, they only got hit by about 15,000 and then disappeared back down here again. Yeah, that's just them trying to manipulate things to get the price to go higher. They're trying to manipulate the bid side, making it look like there's more demand over there than what there really is. That's probably exactly what was going on. Let's play another what-if game here. So you can see on this one that they are showing some size. So this one's showing a big size. You can see here default size. Over here, some bigger size. Same with over here, bigger size, or excuse me, default size there, bigger size. So VNDM, let's say, it's technically, only supposed to be 5,000 shares. Let's say 100,000 shares hit and they're still there. What does that tell you? Remember, in combination with where they're at the bid, they are probably diluting. You can never say for sure, but let actions speak louder than words. And if they're just sitting here only showing 5,000, so it's one of these things where they're like, no, I do not want the full order size shown. I don't want people to know, how many we're selling up here. So simply showing the default 5,000 and then having, the tape show order after order after order of, people buying from those people up on stage. Then it's kind of like thinking back to the picture. They're up at the podium, and they just keep saying sold, 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 and the people waiting back here are like, what the heck? When are you going to be done selling? And they're just up there, sold, sold, and they're thinking he's only showing that he wants 5,000 shares, yet he keeps sold, I lied, I want more, sold, I lied, I have more, sold, I lied, I have more, sold, I lied, just over and over. I mean, picture, that's what it's like. Use that image. That's what it would be like if you're at this auction. You saw V&M up at the podium, and then people look in the audience, and he's like, well, if he's shorting, he should be at least somewhat close to the front row. Nope. He's way back kind of, by the, I'm not going to say quite the exit sign, but he's not even close to things. And on that note, I just noticed something else. So remember the people that try to lazily hide? Now CSTI has me a little bit worried. Yeah, the price has got to get up there, but right now he's at 0.0238, showing 5,000 shares, so default. Yet CSCI is down there at 0001. Okay, that would be, for me, that would be all right. Mental note, if the price gets up here, how does CSTI act? Innocent until proven guilty. So I'm not going to say he's diluting or getting ready to, well, I will say he may be getting ready to dilute, but something right there. Just notice that. Where's maximum? He's down here at 0001. Maximum. All right, so maybe let me get that out of there. So you can see maximum right here, MAXM down here at 0001. But unless I'm blind, don't see anything here. You know, where's VFin? VFin down here at 0005. Uh-oh, where's he at on the ask? Okay, wait, he's up at 10 cents, so nothing to worry about right now. But CSTI, you know, he's not on the best ask, he's not on the inside ask, but he's still somewhat up here in the market. So if the price were to get up here, he's in front of Knight still. So if the price were to get up here, I'm going to be watching CSTI like a hawk, because this action right now, in terms of where they're located, would have me worried. So good. I'm glad I just kind of noticed that there. But right now, I don't like this level 2 setup at all. Way too much possible dilution going on. Can't say for sure because we don't have any sort of level 2 streaming here. But you know what to look for. You know to keep in mind. You know the incremental move. You know how far does VNDM move if he does move, and how much has he sold there. You know how active is he over on the bid. You understand everything. And then if you just look from the future friend rule, coming down here 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you got in at 17.5, you'd be able to sell at, just planning the risk, you'd hopefully be able to get out at 0.015 or 0.0152, but you'd have to get in at 0.0157. So, this isn't the tightest spread. So there's quite a bit of risk coming in just from, using the friendly rule. And then if we do future enemies, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it can move somewhat, but again, when you factor in these other things, which we've already talked about the potential and probable dilution, I don't know. This one's pretty high risk to go and just start slapping the ask. Okay, let's take a look at this one now. So first thing that sticks out to me when I'm looking at it is, all right, the ask is pretty big here. In particular, this 133 share order. So it's thinking, all right, 31 looks like, in 26.31, pretty much big board traders, when you're talking level 2s or prices, they just ignore this part here, the 26, and they just talk in terms of the cent. So that's what I'm going to try to do, just save myself a little bit of breath here. So 31 seems to be the level of resistance right now. And especially, let's just factor something in right away. If the technical analysis, if your chart for you chart traders out there said you looked at the chart before even pulling up level 2s, and you're like, all right, it looks like right around the 30 to 31 area is resistance, and then you pulled this up and said, or saw this, and you're like, okay, that probably is this is probably a pretty bearish area. Not sure if it's best to buy here. However, on that same note, you could see this and say, well, I don't know. The chart, and this does say this is a level of resistance. However, look at the bid. Nice size bid right there. And then you factor in these other ones, still some good size. With the break of 31, I don't see any huge orders over here. So a logical conclusion, of course, nothing is for sure, but you could say maybe this resistance is getting ready to be broken. Maybe we're about to have a chart breakout here. And why would you think that again? Just you're confirming that this is a level of resistance via the big order. However, at the same time, you're thinking, wow, this is a big order creeping in here. I mean, if you were to add all these up and then add all these up, I'm not going to do the math, but my guess is they're going to be pretty close to each other. And when you consider that this big order is coming in, maybe, just maybe, this resistance is getting ready to be broken and there's going to be a technical pattern breakout here. Again, do you know that for sure? But does this at least make sense? Am I making a logical conclusion with what I might want to do with my money? Yeah, to me, that makes very good sense. And again, you'd have no idea of this without level 2. If you were using level 1, you'd have no idea that this big order is sitting here right below what this is as a level of resistance. Now let's flip things around. Let's say that the technical chart shows that a level of support is at 26.30. Well, then you pull this up and same thing. Okay, yeah, it seems like 26.30 is probably a pretty bullish area in terms of support. Yeah, I see this right now. But you still got to give the advantage to the bulls, knowing where the technical chart level of support is. So this could be a good area where I'm willing to hit the ask there and see what happens. Again, can't make too many conclusions because we don't see the tape. But let's say you are watching the tape, and let's just say that you start to see a bunch of green show up, that showing that the ask is getting slapped. Boom, 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 boom. Then okay, you see this order start to decrease in size pretty quickly. Now again, stepping back, combining, knowing that 26.30 is a technical chart level of support, knowing that you have this order down here, okay, maybe it's worth hopping in at 26.21. Hopefully you start to see how all that combines, knowing having a whole separate tool such as the technical chart can and will many times match up pretty darn close with whatever level 2s is showing you, and then you can start to really draw some very logical conclusions with, you know, what sort of risk to take. You know, if that sort of action on the tape was happening where you had boom, 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 people buying on the ass, this dropping in size pretty fast, then yeah, I wouldn't mind slapping the ass there and seeing if I can, you know, try to catch some sort of bounce. Because remember, technical pattern showing that, or technical chart is showing this is the level of support. Prices bounce from supports. So if a bunch of people are starting to hit the ask here, that tells you, all right, you know, they must be feeling the same way. They must be thinking the same thing, that we could get a bounce. So yeah, I'll try to join in and maybe try to, you know, pursue the bounce, see if I can help it bounce and hit the ask. And again, am I throwing darts here? No, I'm talking through a very logical plan based off of technical charts and then the level 2s. And then finally, just notice something. This no longer pertains, but looking at the quality of, you know, the market makers, you can see LEHM, that was Lehman Brothers. They no longer exist, but you know, at one point they were a very big name out there. You can see that they're also bidding down here at 26.29. So add that onto the layer of already having big size here, already having a good size box, technical chart saying that 26.30 is the level of support. Then you throw in the nice quality here. Of course, double check that where is he on the ask. Don't see Lehman Brothers anywhere over here. So you know, think back to our picture of our risk. You know, we're getting pretty far down the line here, where when we connect it to the line up here, it's showing us that our probability, you know, of success is in our favor, much better than just throwing a dart at a board. All right, we have seen this one before. Let's talk about it. So first thing that I notice is, again, kind of goofy, have 55.74 on the best bid and the best ask. 7 shares here versus 4. So it's kind of a draw, but I would give it to the resistance. So why would I give it to the resistance side of thing? Why would I give it to the ask? Pause it if you want and take a look. The reason I would give it to the ask is look who's right behind at 55.70, or yeah. Again, I'm just going to talk about the increments here. Look who's behind at 75 with 55 shares right there. So sure, they're both matched up, but when you have 55 at 75, got to give the advantage to the ask. And I've talked about this one before, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you know, again, this is one where, you know, a lot of things could get into our favor, especially if the technical chart says that, for example, 55.71 or 55.70 is a level of support. So before we even look at level 2s, let's say we pull up this chart and it's okay. I just noticed, all right, this is the chart for Microsoft. So we pull up the Microsoft technical chart, and because you know how to use or find supports and all that stuff, you see support. Yeah, it looks like support's right there around, you know, 55.70 to 55.72. You know, it's not going to be exact because we're talking about a stock here that trades for, you know, well over $55. So you're thinking right in the round 55 to 72-ish area on the chart. All right, well, let's see what level 2s have to say. You pull this up, and to me, this is a, you know, a no-brainer right here. Doesn't make any sense to buy up here at 55.74 when you have a big order right behind you at 50.75. To me, no, that makes more sense. I'd rather sit back, wait, and see if it can drop down here to the low 70s. Why do I say that? Well, we've talked about this before, but first got Goldman Sachs right there at 69. Big box size at 70. Got a nice order at 50 right there in terms of share size. So to me, I like the risk versus reward much better down here at 55.70, maybe even 71. Try to pull a slick willy and cut ahead of all this. But the risk versus reward to me is much better here than it is up here. Now again, this is why everything needs to be used in conjunction. If you do the future enemy rule, you could say I could get in at 54. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you know, that could be some progress. However, look, first off, look where you end. You end on somebody with a 50. Second, don't forget to combine in share size. You first got to get through one of these enemies has 55 shares relative to, if you're, you know, looking at your friends, 1, 2, 3 factor getting out at 72. You know, it just, things make a lot more sense when you get down here around the 55-70 area, especially when you factor in Goldman Sachs and all that. So again, future enemy rule, yes, it's helpful, but it's just to give you a little kind of peek at things. Sure, it's kind of thin and you can make a 5-cent move, so there's some potential there, but keep in mind the size of the orders, and then, you know, you can gain a little bit better grasp on the risk. Could this still be a great play? Yes, but I think it's a much better play if it drops down to the low 55.70s for all the reasons I've already discussed. So use that as a guide. And also, you know, if you look on the chart and you're seeing, you know, let's flip things around. You see that, you know, 55.80 shows as a level of resistance on the chart. Then you could say, all right, that makes sense. That would make sense why this big seller has an order right there. They're trying to pull the slick willy, cut in front of the 55.80 because they're using technical charts too. So like, okay, yeah, 55.80 probably is some sort of resistance right there. Have this person that's really cutting in front, but just the way of using the charts in conjunction with the level twos. But this one to me, when you really factor in everything we've learned about in the course, all this stuff down here really negates the fact, especially again, let's not even talk about the technical chart, just solely looking at level twos. I like down here at the 55.70 area to 55.71. To me, I think this is the best risk versus reward area down here. And then if you throw on top of that, the technical chart says this area down here is probably area of support, then that's just one more layer to it where I really like the risk versus reward. All right, here we got another penny stock one. First thing that immediately pops up, all right, the share size is going to be of no use on this one because everything is showing default at 5,000. So that's very limiting. You're not going to be able to draw any conclusions from that side. No problem. Let's take a look at quality of market makers here. Nothing to be worried about here. UBSS, but still showing an aggressive bid. I know I've been over this a little bit in previous examples. Vert here at 0012, still pretty aggressive, nothing to worry about. Getting up here, where's PERT at? Okay, so here is one where, like CSTI from that one example, PERT is now on my radar in terms of if the price does get up here, how are they going to act? Why am I concerned? Well, pause it real quick and let me know why I'm concerned with how PERT will act if the price gets up there. If you said, well, you're concerned because they're showing an offer here at 0012, yet they're way down here on the bid. Now, if the price gets up here, so let's do another what if. Let's say the price gets up here and PERT, you see a bunch of shares hit PERT, and then PERT jumps up to pretty darn close to the best bid. What's that going to tell you? I'll pause it. If you said, well, that tells us that either one of two things, we don't know, but there's two possible scenarios here. Either one, PERT was shorting because now they're getting aggressive on the bid because they want to start to cover and just take their profits, or PERT is diluting and now they're trying to manipulate and play a game showing that there's bid support. So now let's take things another bit. Let's take it to the next step. Watching the tape, you see PERT up there at the best, and just a bunch of shares hit it. Pretty close to how many he sold. You're never going to know for sure, but just using your visual, pretty close to what you saw him sell. What is that telling you? If you said, all right, well, that probably means that he's, if he was shorting, then he's now covering a short over on the bid and just providing bid support. Let me rephrase another way. What if you see PERT and there's, a 5,000 share, a bid whack knocks him and he drops all the way back down here? What does that tell you? If you said, well, that's probably manipulation in a game, trying to make it look like he's interested in shares, but he's really not, so therefore he's probably diluting, then I think that's a very logical conclusion. So remember, always got to watch the tape. Let's see, what else do we have going on here? HGSN, nope, he's pretty aggressive. Able, aggressive. Where's Murph? Aggressive. So at this point in time, really, PERT is the only one who, again, innocent until proven guilty, but certainly going to keep an eye on that if the price gets up there. Where's V? Okay, VFIN's not even in the market. Yeah, VFIN down there. Did I see Fan? No, Fancy 19. Again, maybe Fancy a little bit. You're looking at here, he's right at 0019, and then you look at where he is over here. Fancy down at 0005. But who knows, if he's, price is still well away from 0019, so you don't want to get too carried away. But again, just to kind of take PERT for sure, you want to be watching like a hawk. How does he act when the prints start hitting the tape and he's up on the inside ask? But Fancy would be another one to keep an eye on. So again, for this one, let's say that the the technical chart resistance shows something at 0012. What kind of thoughts do you have about that from, just using everything? What kind of thoughts do you have if technical chart resistance is showing at 0012? If you said, well, that kind of tilt things not so good and somewhat risky. The reason I say somewhat risky is, well, first, the chart is telling us it's a level of resistance, but second, goes back to PERT. A lot of it will hinge on PERT. If PERT is diluting and just sitting there, then yeah, you better believe 0012 is going to be a technical chart level of resistance too. However, if PERT is acting, normal, showing that they're willing to move and then gets active over here on the bid, then yeah, maybe we could see a technical chart breakout. But Who knows? Maybe PERT is the one that's created that resistance in the chart previous times, and they're just going to sit up there and sell, sell, sell again like they did at a previous time when they created that resistance on the chart. We don't know that, but if you see PERT as the only market maker sitting there, and they're see ass slap after ass slap on the tape, and you see all those green orders coming through, then you're like, I bet PERT was there the last couple times it hit 0012 and the price fell back down. So right there you're thinking, all right, now I need to be much more careful, and you get a better idea of risk. Now if PERT finally moves and lets it go, then you got to think, okay, either that's when you apply the increment rule. If PERT, let's say let's say Billy Bob is using PERT, our CEO, and he's finally out of shares, and like he literally doesn't have any shares, what's going to happen to PERT? PERT's going to jump somewhere way out of the market, and then the price is going to start to move. PERT's not going to do anything over here because he doesn't need to buy. But if PERT all of a sudden just, let's say, maybe disappears off level 2s or moves back, way out of the market down here, then that tells us, hey, maybe dilution's finally done. Maybe it can start to move, and that's going to make things much, raise your odds of success. If all of a sudden, the market maker that's been sitting there selling is now out of the picture. All right, let's take a look at this one. I just want to ask you a question. Would it be wise to put in a bid at $16? So check things out and pause it and let me know. If you said absolutely that's a good deal, then you are absolutely correct. Now, why is that the case? Well, if you said, well, that's the case because I want to pull a slick Willy move and hop in front of this massive order right here at 999 shares, then well done. That makes a lot of sense. You may be thinking, well, that makes no. I mean, look at the size of the box. Look at all these market makers that want to sell at 1601. Well, add up all those and then see how that compares to 999. And the size might be bigger because it looks like this platform might just limit things at 999. That's speculation, but point being, that's why order size is important. If you can see order size, can always be important. Sure, the size of the box is very, very big here. And, I don't blame, sure, there's some big orders here, but boom, 999. I'd have no problem trying to hop in there at 16, or in fact, maybe even slap the ask at 1601. Now, let me ask you this. What do you think would make me feel comfortable slapping the ask at 1601? What other layer, what other tool might be able to be applied to put my mind even that much more at ease? If you said, well, I know you like charts, and if the chart said that there is a support level right around the $16 area, then I'm sure you'd feel that much more confident about even maybe possibly slapping the ask. Absolutely. If that's somewhat of what you're thinking, a technical chart support level being around 16, you see all this. I really don't care about how many people are there as long as you're not some massive massive order share size. But if there's the technical chart saying, hey, $16, you got big size right there, right at that level, then I like the risk versus reward setup there. Yeah, the future enemy rule and future friend rule might be a little lopsided, but at the end of the day, that's why you got to use more things. So again, great example of how order size can be very important in terms of trying to establish some sort of risk perspective. Colors are great, but at the same time, the colors can be deceiving, as you see here. A lot of yellow, but don't forget to add in that next layer of context and seeing what sort of order size. And I should go through. I haven't checked, but let's check the quality of the market makers. I'm not even sure if you can see it. But no, I don't see Goldman Sachs or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm at least putting a bid in here all day long at 16, and maybe even slapping the ask depending on what the technical chart is saying. Okay, I actually have a question here that I wanted to put on the slide so I didn't forget it to ask. But you have a friend with level 1, and they say that, hey, you want a favorable risk entry on this stock? Hop in at 101.25. True or false? Pause the video and let me know. Is 101.25 a favorable risk entry for you? If you said, no, what are you talking about, friend with level 1? You should probably get level 2. Why is that the case? First off, that is the correct answer. False. This is not a risk favorable entry at 121.25. Why is that? Well, let's look at the size of the box. Pretty darn big size of the box. Okay. Number 2, what kind of share size are we looking at? Pretty darn big. Have 118 size right there. Have a 64 size right there. So pretty darn big. Quality of reputations of the market makers. Don't see anything fishy there. So yeah, right now buying at 101.25 makes no sense. What happens if your friend says, all right, fine, put in a bid at 101.24? What would your thoughts on that be? Just based on level 2s alone, let's not talk about charts or anything like that. What would you be thinking? If you said, no, that's still not very good. Good answer. Why is that the case? Because how many friends do you have if you hop in at 101.25? You have one right there. And how many orders or how many shares does that one friend want? Much better than seeing just the one right there, but still only 10. What kind of future enemies are you looking at? 1, 2, 3, 4. You're still on 101.25 and 118. So even if you were to get filled over here at 101.24, you don't have that many other friends at 101.24, let alone 101.23. What are you talking about? You got three friends sitting there. Again, don't forget about the share size order. Yeah, you got 3 there, but let's see. I can do the math on that. 12 and 11. What is that? 23. And then boom. Let's just take that. 64. 64 is almost 3 times as big as 23. So, and that's not even factoring in the 18 there. So it makes no sense to hop in at 23. Doesn't make any sense anywhere to hop in right now on the bid. If you said, no, I don't really see anything, I would agree. The only thing that could make me change my mind is if we bring in, just a hypothetical chart that says, maybe 101.20 shows that support. So let's do that. If 101.20 shows that support, should you just automatically throw in an order at 101.20 just because the chart says that's support? If you said, yes, you should, you are wrong. No, you should not. Why? What should we look for? Well, let's see what sort of action happens at 101.20. So let's say the price, there's some bid wax, and then all of a sudden at 101.20, you get five different market makers down there, and then you start to see some of these orders show up. Does that change anything at all? Yes, it does. What does it change? Well, first, our technical or chart said that there is some support down there. Okay, that's good, but can we get any sort of verification? Thanks to level 2s, now we're seeing quite a bit of market makers forming down around that area, starting to see some bigger share size in there. Boy, oh boy, does that change everything from a risk profile standpoint. Okay, 101.20, would look much better. So again, good to show how charts can factor in, but just because a chart shows something doesn't mean you throw in an order there. Take a look at level 2s. That's why these two tools really worked hand in hand with one another. Again, let's just say your friend says, okay, fine, I'll concede the fact, and the resistance at the chart is 101.26. Should you now put in an order anywhere close to the ask? No, that was kind of a trick question. That makes things even worse. If now the technical chart resistance is showing resistance right up around this area, why would you ever be slapping the ask? The only thing that would make you want to slap the ask is if all of a sudden 124 bid grew. So let's say this whole section of level 2s, let's say all of them change into 101.24. Let's say there's a 0 added here, 0 added, 2 zeros added here. So yeah, 200, 60, 100. All of a sudden that came. Nothing changes over here. Nothing changes over here, and the technical chart says that there's resistance at 101.26, but then all of a sudden all these show up at 101.24 and you get these bigger share sizes. Does that change anything? Yes. Does it mean you should still buy? No. Doesn't mean you should buy in quite yet. What's the final step that you should look at? Watch the tape. How does the tape react? Are you all of a sudden getting a bunch of ass slaps that are happening, or is as soon as this happens on the bid, there's a bunch of bid wax happening? So that's why you got to use it all in conjunction. Watch the tape, see how that unfolds. But yeah, certainly the risk profile changes if all of a sudden, all these things happen. Orders all of a sudden increase in share size. Nothing could change over there even if the chart says it. But you still got to look at the tape. How is the tape reacting? How is the auction action? How is the auction acting? Is people up on stage just still throwing them down into the people, in the audience and bid whacking? Or is now people starting to buy from people on stage and you see a bunch of, green coming across on, the tape? So just keep everything in mind. Things are always changing. Things are always fluid. Okay, take a look at this one. I want to just ask you a quick question. You pull this up and you're thinking, all right, yeah, 60.74. That's a good favorable area to put in a bid for some shares. So let me know on your thoughts at putting in shares at 74 to try to pick some up. If you said, no, Clay, you're trying to get tricky. That's not a very good risk-favorable entry. If you said that, well done. Now, why is that the case? If you didn't get that quite right, well, yeah, sure, I will agree. The size of the box is very favorable. Not much bigger than what it is over here on the ask. However, don't forget about share size. Not nearly as many, especially when you consider Got some pretty big share size over there. Sure, less, the box is smaller, but, and sure, you know, numbers wise, if you were to hop in here, you could say, and then I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll have 8 friends. I'll have future friends. If I hop in at 65, I'll have 8 future friends. And that's only going against, you know, much less enemies. Well, you know, that's why you don't use that rule only alone. Let's look at share size. Not very favorable. So just one of those things. Keep that in mind. Gotta look much more outside of things. Okay, if your friend says, you know what, you should probably stay away from 60-90. You know, that's not a very good level of risk and reward. Would you agree? If you said, no, I do not agree, then you are wrong. You should agree. Why is that just a terrible, and this is the thing that makes me want to pull my hair out when people don't use level 2s. Why would that be terrible to go in there and hit the ask at 60-90? Well, let's just go through it here. First, the size of the box. So future enemies, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you still got another 4 to just get past 60-90. Future friends, 1, 2, 3. Sure, you could get out there, but only 3. 3 friends compared to a lot more enemies. Remember, we're trying to win a brawl. How do you win a brawl? Bring a lot of people. But you got to bring a lot of people that have muscle. So look at muscle. The higher this number goes, the more muscle those people bring. So not only do these people bring more people, or not only do these market makers bring more people to the fight, they're bringing some, you know, some professional wrestlers who are all pumped up on steroids and got some big muscles. Look at these size orders. It makes absolutely no sense. Okay, fine, let me add another layer. Let's say that the technical chart shows a big history of support at 60, 80, let's just say 60-88. Does that change anything? Technical support level at 60-88. Yes, it changes something, but not the way I want to focus on this course. To me, that says, well, 60-88, you know, let's kind of have a little funeral for you, because it doesn't look like the odds right now are looking too good that this is going to be continued level of support. So if I was looking to go short, meaning you want the price to go down, this might be a good short right at knowing that this is a level of support. Why is it? What would make me think that that level of support might be time for a funeral? Well, again, let's look at things here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think. Yeah, 8. And then total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we already have more friends, or I should say more enemies here, versus these two price levels combined. And that's not even talking about the muscle that these friends have. So you have all this muscle right here. And if this muscle decides to attack here, see you later support level. 60-88 is no longer going to be a support. So that brings up the point. Just because a chart shows that 60-88 is a level of support, does that automatically mean that for sure 60-88 is going to hold as a level of support? When it looks like this, no, I don't like the odds of that being a level of support anymore on the technical chart. So keep that in mind too. Level 2s can be a great forecaster, predictor of potential breaks within technical chart levels. Again, mustard and ketchup, these really work well together. And I'm truly not trying to drive buy my course, no, but learn charts. That's what I'm trying to buy, or trying to drive home, is learn charts, because again, I hope that makes sense. I don't care if the technical chart says that this is the level of support. It very well may have been the level of support, but at this moment in time, you know, if I were forced to choose what's going to happen, well, 60-88 doesn't look too well in terms of holding up as support, because they're outnumbered in the brawl, and then the enemy of the brawl right here is bringing some big muscle with it. So first, buying at 60-90, just totally stupid. At least if you bought at 60-88, you'd say, well, you know, at least the technical chart level said that. But still, got to get a little bit more advanced in your thinking and realize a lot of people, big muscle. What happens if your friend says, hey, you know what? Buy because there's a resistance at 60-90, and you know, there's a technical chart resistance at 60-90. You know, it looks like the breakout's right around the corner. First off, I would say, you know what, you're no longer my friend. I'd say either get level 2s or don't be my friend anymore. Does it look like there's a possible breakout happening anytime soon? If this is no, it looks like this is, you know, standing pretty firm, ready to be a resistance again, especially if there's been previous times. I don't see anything that would allow me to think that this is a breakout. So, but let me ask this. What if you're watching the tape and then all of a sudden all these convert over to 60-89, add in a 0 here, Add in some zeros here. Add in some more zeros here. We'll put some zeros over here. And then this, all of a sudden, you see, you're watching the tape, boom, 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 a bunch of ass slaps, and before you know it, this is down to 100. This is down to, 75. Now what's that telling you? Is there maybe going to be a technical chart breakout here? Yeah, now things change. At this moment in time, it makes no sense, but watching the tape and watching these numbers, if these things all of a sudden change, then it very well, your friend might be right, like, oh yeah, it looks like a potential technical chart pattern breakout. Still work to be done, still doesn't mean, but at least you're trying to anticipate, and it's logical to think that, maybe this is getting ready to break, but, at this moment in time right now, no, there's absolutely nothing to make you think that there's going to be some technical chart breakout at 60.90. So again, use it all in conjunction. Charts don't overrule level 2s. Level 2s don't overrule charts. They need to be used together. Okay, you got a new friend now, and this friend uses level 2 and says, hey, chart alert, chart alert, chart alert. About to break out at 41.81. So 81, break coming along. I'd hop in right now. And you pull up the level 2s and see this. What do you think? Is it good to hop in at 41.81? If you said, no, that doesn't make any sense right now. At this moment in time, it makes no sense. Now, what could trip up your friend is they may be looking at the size of the box, thinking, if I get in right now, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 friends at 80 right here. However, what are they not looking at? What is the thing that hopefully you caught your eye and said, no, Clay, you're trying to trick us again with this? What is that? Right here, order size. Yeah, sure, there's only 3 friends, and this is one of these things where, okay, coming to the brawl, these people are bringing 6 people. Yeah, some decent muscle there, but then you look over here, there's only 3 people that are getting brought to the brawl. However, one happens to be a Navy SEAL right up there. So that kind of changes the forecast on things. Doesn't quite appear as it does if you just look at the colors and the size of the boxes. Again, very important to look at size. You look at the the quality or the reputations. Don't see anything over here that stands out. But again, nothing that would justify, oh, let's slap the ass. Now let's update things of what if. So what if the tape, see a lot of green action here. So all these green shares are showing that people are buying from the ass. So let's say this green action keeps up over here, and then all of a sudden this is down to 150. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna load in an order here. We may be seeing some sort of breakout, especially if on the technical chart 41.81 shows a level of resistance. Then okay, even more. Even more so if 80 is shown as a support on the chart. And then you keep watching, this action keeps happening, boom. Now 150 is down to 75. Right there, I would say, okay, nothing's guaranteed, but if you slap the ass now, at least it makes sense. At least there's some logic to the risk that you're willing to take here. If it drops down to 50, then yeah, I'd probably be willing to slap the ass. Is it guaranteed that a breakout's going to happen? No, but at least it's starting to make sense of, going from 307 to 150 to 75 to 50. And keep in mind, this would be a big board, so this would be happening relatively fast. Then okay, yeah, that makes sense, and it makes sense and is logical in terms of risk, especially when now, okay, yeah, I got a lot of future friends behind me, and if it doesn't quite work out, after I hit it for, when there's still 50 shares showing, at least if things start to kind of get fuzzy and backfire, I got some friends here to watch my back. So that's why tape is so important and why you always need to be watching it. You got to factor in everything. We're going to actually cover this topic in the next section about just conceptions and misconceptions and all that. But if I were to ask you, do you think this stock here has a big float or a small float? So take a look at things and let me know. If you said, all right, this stock has this stock has all sorts of shares flying out there, I would say, good eye. What makes you think that? Well, just look at how thick these things are. So first, can't tell anything. Typical penny stock, 5,000 share lots. And let's not even look at the reputations, but you have 2 at 0.156, 1 at 1.565, up here at 1.599, 1.599, 1616. So to go from 0.156 just to get through 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 market makers just to go from 0.156 up to 16. That's crazy. That tells me that there's a lot of shares out there. And if it's one of these things where, you call up the CEO and the CEO's, hey, no, I'm not diluting, I'm not. Well, I mean, look, yeah, there's quite a few shares out there, especially if at one point, the level 2's never had this many market makers. I'm not going to touch on it too much, just because, like I said, I'll cover that a little bit later on. But just an example here of, wow, there's got to be a lot of shares out there, because look at all these market makers and just how thick both the. Now, yes, the ask is thick, but the bid is thick too. I mean, if you're going to fall below 15, look at this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So from 15.5 cents just to 15, so a half a cent, you had all these market makers. That's pretty crazy. Now, from the perspective of, just kind of bringing some friends, I'm not a big fan of these because they're just so thick and they have a problem moving. But, looking at this, hopping in at 0.156, I don't think that's terrible. Why do I say that? Well, I mean, just look at, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 before you're past 16. But as I already counted, you got a whole lot more before you'd ever be past 15. So, I mean, the bid is definitely in your favor here. And it at least makes sense. Is that guaranteed to go anywhere? No, but at least it makes sense. My guess would be, if I were to pull up a technical chart on this one at this moment in time, 15 cents is probably a level of support. I mean, especially when you look at, even after 15, you got two more right there at 0.149. So just very thick. But if you did smack the ask here, I don't see any problems with that, just because, just so many market makers from 15.5 all the way down to 15. So a half a cent risk, and you'd be pretty certain that you could get out at worst case at 15. Then yeah, there's not too much risk. You don't really have too much upside either because it's so thick, but it's much thicker over here on the bid than it is on the ask. So I could see, it would make sense in my mind if you decided to, I'm going to slap the ask here and see what happens. It makes sense from the risk profile perspective here on level 2s. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Ignore the questions right now. Actually, your level 1 friend, so you guys made up. He promised to get level 2s, but apparently he didn't, because he's going to say this to you. Your friend with level 2, he says, hey, this is a favorable risk versus reward at 3.95. So is this true or false? If you said, you know what, hey, it looks like every blind squirrel finds a nut, yeah, I'd agree. This is a very nice entry at 3.95. Well, why is that the case? Well, let's just look at the simple size of the box. That'd be a good place to start. Share size isn't going to tell us anything except from our ECN. Again, like I said, usually ECNs have to show size. So there's ARCA showing some size. But 3.95, you get in there, you got some nice friends right there. Yeah, there's a 2-cent spread, but from looking at this, not bad at all. 3 and only 1 here. And then after this, so if you get in at 3.95, you could get out at 3.93, but push through 3.95 and all of a sudden, boom, you're up at 3.98. So that's a nice little progress, and that's shows that there's some progress. Also, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, you're still at 3.98, but now you're right on the edge of possibly getting up to $4. So some nice risk reward there from the future enemies, and then looking at how many friends you have. Now let's take things to the next step though. If you get in at 3.95, what should you immediately be monitoring and watching like a hawk? I've kind of already given this away. So I guess I won't pause it, but immediately if you get at 3.95, the one thing that you need to be watching like a hawk, again, level 1 people, this is why level 2s give you such an advantage, because level 1 people that you're trading against, they'd have no idea that they need to be paying attention to this. But HDSN up here at 3.98, okay, what's the big deal? Do you see HDSN anywhere over here on the bid? Like anywhere? No. Now if the price comes up here and let's say HDSN, sells off quite a few, and then all of a sudden after that shows up somewhere on the bid, should you have anything to worry about? If you said no, nothing to worry about, if it's HDSN showed up on the bid, then things are okay. Kind of. Why is there a kind of there? What else do we have to keep in mind here? Well, we need to first see how it reacts if there's any bids that are hit. Remember, could just be a manipulation, so you need to keep in mind how many shares up here did HDSN sell relative to how many did they absorb if they get bid whacked. So keep that stuff in mind. That would be the one determining factor. But if everything stays the same and the price gets up here and HDSN just starts selling and doesn't show up over here, what is that telling us? Probably some sort of dilution going on. Does that mean we sell? If you said yes, we should sell because there's dilution, wrong. We shouldn't sell because we need to see what is it, responsible dilution, or is HDSN just going to sit there and sell and sell and sell, or are they going to sell quite a few? You're like, okay, you can move now, and then when they do move, maybe they move up to like 404 or 402. Okay, there's some space there. They're going to let it run. Let's say it gets up to 402, and then they sell some more and some more and some more, but then they move up to 406. Okay, yeah, there's probably some dilution going on here, but at least HDSN is letting the thing move. So again, just because dilution is going on doesn't mean you panic and freak out. It means you definitely put on, your binoculars and you're watching everything like a hawk and taking note, but it doesn't mean you panic and, just totally freak out and, sell all your shares. But very good example here of how, HDSN, at least in this point in time, doesn't even try to hide the fact that something shady is going on because they're not even anywhere over here on the bid. All right, let me just ask you this one. If you use charts, or you're like, I'm going to use charts, so but in this case you first pull up level 2s. If I were to ask you, where do you think on the chart the chart might show some resistance and support? Where do you think the technical chart may show some of that? So I'll pause it and then let's talk. So if you said, all right, well, on the support side, if I pulled up a chart, my guess would be it would be showing something around 43.35, 43.36. Good job, well done. Why would you think that? Well, look at the size of this order right here, down at 43.36. Yeah, that makes a very logical conclusion that you might be able to expect, a technical chart support level down there. If there is no technical chart support level down there, then it's not like you just disregard this level because there's still a bunch of size. But if there is, then it just adds on that another layer of feeling confident and okay, that might be a good level. What about on the resistance side? If you said 46.32 or 43.42, good job. You could have also said 43.49. That'd be probably even a little bit better, although that's kind of priced out of the market. But you can see here, two market makers, both those orders at 1,800 and 1,400. But in the nearer term, if you said 43.42, that would also be a good answer, just because right there based on share size. Nothing based on size of the box. Yeah, there's two people right here, but you really got to factor in the share size right there. Okay, that makes some sense. In terms of risk versus reward right now, do you see any reason to be hopping in on the ask? I personally don't see anything. You got 3 right here. You only got a couple of friends right there. None of your friends seem to have any truly big muscle. So I don't see anything. This one kind of looks like blah. If the price drops down some more and starts to get closer to the 36 area, now you could probably hop in because you'd have this big kind of Navy SEAL behind you watching your back. Or if you waited even more, so I'll even try to see if it got down a low of 43.43. Right there, you got another big thing of muscle. So, but kind of case in point right here, I don't see anything that's really that stands out. Now, if you started to factor in levels of, well, this was the technical level on the chart and this, then that could change things. But looking at this as is right now, even if, so for example, let's say that 43, let's say the chart said 43.39 is a level of support. Does it really look like that good of a support right now? Maybe it is a level of support and maybe it will be a level of support. But, when you combine level 2s with the chart, does that look like a level of support really at all right now? No, so it's kind of one of these things where it's like, well, it may be kind of time to have a funeral for this level of support. But at the same time, I wouldn't be that confident of the level of funeral because it's not like the ask is super heavy either. I mean, let's see, there's 2, 3, 4, so there's only 200 shares more. So it's not like that one example where there was all those sorts of shares just sitting there waiting. So this is kind of just like a block case. I don't really see anything anywhere, even if this level showed it being a level of support or this is a level of resistance on the chart. If this was a level of resistance on the chart, do you see anything that would make you think that it might be ready to fall based on what you see right now? I mean, I don't see anything. I don't see any big orders. Now, if all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this grew to a size of 0, and then this market maker right here all of a sudden changed to 43.39. Now I'm thinking, all right, maybe we might be getting a technical pattern breakout. But as things stand right here, don't see anything, a very kind of, blosh type level 2 setup where, there's nothing that really sticks out. Okay, again, let's ask the question. If you pulled up a technical chart first you looked at this level 2 and then you pulled up a technical chart, where do you think you might see some resistance at? If you said, oh, this is a no-brainer, this is very easy to see, it's got to be right around 43.19 or 43.20. And I would say absolutely right, good eye. Why do I say that? You might say, well, what do you mean? There's only one person there at 19 and one person there at 20. But then when you combine their size, holy smokes. There's a seller up there, and I'd be pretty confident on this chart that probably 43.20 was showing some sort of resistance, because these were probably the sellers that in the past that had created the resistance. They're probably still sitting up there right now, and possibly maybe getting ready to create another level of resistance. So yeah, 43.20, big time level of resistance. Does it make any sense right now to hop in at 43.14 or 43.13? I don't really see anything. I mean, if the price dropped down somewhat, maybe, but I don't see any huge or obvious levels of support. Just looking over here. Oh, this is kind of nice. They remind this is where the buyers are. This is where the sellers are. But as far as the risk profile, I mean, this level 2 on the bid side. Now, if I was looking to go short, meaning I want to sell first, then what does this tell you? So think back to shorting. If shorters sell first and then want the price to go down, where may be a good area to put a sell order at if you want to sell and then have the price go down? Where is resistance? Well, we've established that. So you said, you know what? If I put a little, looking at this, I'd put in an order to short up at 43.19. Why? Well, I just want to pull the slick willy in the front of this massive thing, because if I get in, remember, this is going to be a nice little friend to have my back on the short side. So I would look to price short at 43.19, but I see no reason at all right now to put any sort of buy orders in here on the bid, and I don't see any reason at all to put any sort of to slap the ask or anything, because there's just nothing over here. On the same note, do I think you should just bid whack and try to go short or anything? I don't think that either, because you never know, something big might hop up. But yeah, certainly if the price gets up around this area, and on top of that, if the price or if the chart is showing a level of resistance up around there, then yeah, you better believe I'm probably trying to put in an order to short, because I think the price is going to get rejected from here and at least head back down. All right, and this is going to be our final example. We've gone over quite a few, so I'm just going to throw it out there. Where would be a stupid place to buy? How could you try and play this? I'm going to pause it, and then you can take a look here. If I told you, you know what, just go in there and buy at 31. Do you think that's stupid? No, I don't think it's necessarily stupid. Why do I think that? And hopefully this translates on the video, but I mean, look at all the friends you have from 28 above. I mean, you have some massive support from 28 up here. And then if you count, the future enemies, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're already at 34 cents. So from 31, just within 4 market makers, you're at 34. Well, that can only be half the battle, Clay. You're absolutely right. So let's look at size. Yeah, there's some big size. However, what kind of size, what kind of muscle might you be bringing to the fight? Well, you're also bringing some pretty big muscle, as you have big orders of 28,000 and 20,000 down there at 28.5 cents. Now, for me, how would or in the second part of the question, where would be a stupid place to buy? For that one, my answer would be, well, if you waited for it to get up to 34, and then that's where you started to buy. Why is that stupid? Well, 34 has 3 market makers, so the box is big on top of the box being big. Look at that, 50,000 share order in there. So it would make no sense. I mean, if you want to take a logical risk down here at 31, beautiful. Now, how would I probably try to play this? Well, me personally, I noticed a little deficiency in the market. What do I mean by deficiency in the market? Well, right now, what's the spread? The spread is 2 cents, because the best ask is 31, the best bid is 29. So there's some room in there. There is a deficiency. What is the deficiency? There's nobody in there willing to buy at 30. So given the fact that I already like a possible entry at 31, I might just throw in a bid at 30, and now all of a sudden I would be the best bid, and I have all sorts of friends behind me. Sure, there'd still be some risk, but 30 cents, if somebody hits me on that, and then I got all these friends, that would be excellent, especially if I'm already considering buying 31. So again, that's what I like to do, and that's what level 2 show you. They're going to show you deficiencies in the market, and there's certainly one. So again, just to reiterate, the spread is 2 cents. There's nobody, and the reason the spread is 2 cents is because there's nobody willing to buy at 30. But if you hop in 30, you're kind of pulling the slick willy into all this front of quite a bit of muscle. This is a nice size of muscle to bring to any sort of brawl. Whereas if you're waiting all the way to 34, totally changes things. But to me, throwing in a bid at 30 right there, knowing that all this is behind you, that makes a lot of sense, and it makes a very logical risk. So especially if then all of a sudden we say, the technical chart shows a support level at 28. Well then, yeah, 28, that matches up. I mean, you're right here. Even if the technical chart shows a resistance at 34, which would match up, 30 cents up to 33, take a quick 3-cent scalp. That's not a too bad of a quick scalping trade. If that would fit your strategy. So, but just one of those things. Keep your eye out for the deficiencies and just factor in everything. Hopefully by this point I'm just annoying you, because I know I'm saying the same things over and over again. But that's what I want to do. It's not super complicated. Are there different variables you have to factor in? Yes. So are you gonna pick it up right away? No. But as you can see, all sorts of things going on, and then when you factor in the tape, it just helps confirm what you're looking at. So hopefully all these case studies helped. Again, if you still want some more, then pull up your level 2s right now and just pull up any sort of ticker symbol and just look at them and see how they're reacting, see how the boxes are reacting with each box, and then see how the tape affects how the boxes and the market makers, and just look at case study after case study, practice after practice, until your little heart is content.